Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Malaya Bay, our Malaysian themed water park in Planet Coaster 2. I have taken a short break from the channel and from the game in general just because the usual really not had much motivation. Unfortunately, I did take a week away on holiday as well, so I've been sort of otherwise preoccupied. And it's taken me a while to get motivation to get back into the game. So, as you can probably see, it's a nice timely video about building a restaurant which came out maybe 2 or 3 updates ago, maybe in the April update, I can't even remember now. I know that we're on the newest and final free update, or as far as we know, the final free update till later on in the year. So I know we've got the gift shops and everything like that now, so I am a little bit behind the time with this, but yeah, I can't really keep up with the updates. I can't sort of commit to that. And I wanted to build a restaurant. I've been wanting to build a restaurant for ages. I had a specific idea in mind, so I thought that I would put this one together. And it is quite a timely build. It took quite a while to put this together, so it's been over the space of the last month or so, I'd say, that I've got this one together once I finally got back into the game. Anyway, with all that sort of spiel out of the way, let's talk about what we're actually building. So, of course, it is a restaurant. I've given this one the name Nasi Nawana, which ChatGPT very kindly thought up for me, and it translates into Rice Paradise in English. This is a proper sit-down restaurant. I know it's not the most realistic thing, I suppose, for a water park, because normally you do have quick service, and we will be doing a big quick service restaurant somewhere in the park at a later stage. That was going to be the plan for this one and for this area, but I think I just got a bit carried away and wanted to build a heavily themed restaurant, which is what I ended up doing. So this first chunk of the video really is just putting down the foundations and working out where everything's going to go. So now that that's in place, we can actually start building the restaurant itself. Obviously, it's located facing the wave pool, so you get fantastic views across the wave pool and even down to the resort at the bottom of the map. We're going to have lots of inside seating and lots of outside seating. The inspiration that I had for this build was taken from a few different places. Not so much Siam Park for this one, which of course is a huge inspiration for the whole park. But more actually Loro Park, and not one specific building there, but they've got a couple of areas in Loro Park, which is owned by the same group. In fact, that's the name of the group that owns Siam Park. Loro Park is the zoo in the north of Tenerife, and it's another very, very popular tourist attraction. They do have a couple of restaurants in the zoo, as well as a sort of shopping area, and I very distinctly remember from my couple of visits that I made to Loro Park, but we're going back a good sort of 8 years or so, so it's very distant memories. I couldn't find on Google what I was picturing in my head that I know exists. There's just not that many images of this particular area of the zoo. It's more just pictures of habitats and stuff like that, so it's actually quite hard to sort of find what I was looking for to refresh my memory on it. I even looked back through my own photos from back then, and I couldn't find anything of this specific sort of shopping area or the restaurant in the park. But I do sort of have the ideas somewhere in the back of my mind. So using some Pinterest type reference images of traditional Malaysian architecture, which is kind of similar, helped me along the way. So I took reference from a number of different buildings, but one of them was sort of a traditional, it's called Traditional Malay House, and it's at Beras Terbakar in Langkawi, Kedah. Probably absolutely butchered the pronunciation of that one, but yeah, I mean, Pinterest is such a great place to find sort of inspiration because it recommends you other things that are similar to what you're looking at. And yeah, it's that's sort of what I've gone for some of my ideas for this one. And yeah, really pleased with how the whole thing turned out. It was quite a substantial build because there's just so many parts to it, and working out how to use all the new features in the game. So using a lot of the new path tools here, where you can remove the curbs and the sort of foundation part of the path as well, which I did have a little dip into in the last episode, but really didn't do much with it. Here I'm sort of doing slightly more advanced techniques where you actually use the advanced move tool to place bits of path and then cutting them down into the sizes that you want, which is something which is really handy to make different types of stairs that we couldn't really have before. So you can see we've got a stairway in the middle, and then two smaller stairways to the balcony type areas in the restaurant. There's going to be lots of seating all around there, and I just want to get that in place so that I had an idea of how it was all going to look before continuing with the outside facade of this restaurant. This is crazy high budget theming, not going to lie. Pulled out all the stops for this one. So quite a lot of the facade here is made up with these sort of lattice pieces, which for some reason I felt like we had a piece in game that could make these, but I couldn't find anything that came out looking how I wanted it, so I had to kind of do it custom using rescale pillars, which is fine. It's just a little bit heavy on the piece count, but we're doing several different designs with these lattice pieces, and then we're doing sort of one big one in the middle to frame the sort of entrance into the restaurant itself here. So lots of sort of intricate detailing work and all that sort of stuff that comes together to make these sorts of designs. I do like doing stuff like this. I do like this sort of intricate detailed stuff, although sometimes it just does take you a very long time to get everything together, especially when you have to make sure that things aren't clipping through. Another challenge with this build in particular was because a lot of it isn't made using proper wall pieces. I had to make sure that everything looked good on the inside as well, because this has a full interior. There are some bits that are probably a little bit rough around the edges, but it's fine. It's fairly dark in there once everything's been built, so it's not really a problem. You do see some brick walls around the edge at the moment. Those are just placeholders for me to know what the layout of the building was going to be. They don't end up staying. All the wall is done custom, and a lot of it's very open. And then later on I do use some other pieces to sort of add a little bit more detail to that, but we'll go into that later on. At this point I decided it's time to put the actual restaurant in and figure out how it works. I was thinking it was going to be quite complicated to set everything up, because sometimes when things like this come into the game, they can be a bit of a handful trying to work out all the options and stuff, but the restaurants are actually really, really simple. You just place it down and allocate tables to said restaurant. So yeah, it's really easy. There is a limit on the number of tables you can have, which I didn't realise was going to be a thing, but I suppose it makes sense. With that in mind, I probably made this restaurant slightly too large. I did use a maximum capacity number of tables, but once I opened it up to guests at the end of the build, they did start filling up the tables, so I think it was worthwhile doing. A lot of hungry guests in the park. I don't think we've got any other food or drink stalls in the park at the moment, because it's not something I've focused on yet. But yeah, really, really good design with the way that they've integrated the restaurants into the game. I believe they were in Planet Zoo as well, but I'd stopped playing that game by the time they'd implemented them, and as far as I know, the restaurants are even better in this game, because the guests actually take the food to their tables and sit down. The guest interaction with the restaurants is fantastic. Can't praised Frontier. Enough for that one, to be fair. Back to the exterior then, facade for the building, and just finishing off the roof section. I really didn't know what to do with the roof. It wasn't meant to be sort of a focal point for the building, so I did toy with the idea of having an entirely custom roof, but then I thought it's just more unnecessary pieces that aren't really going to be that noticeable, because I want to draw people's attention more to the front facade of the building. So in the end I just used the in-game roof pieces. I think they're the mythology roofs. Toned down the colours a bit, made them sort of darker gold, and it works out absolutely fine. Again, it's not a focal point, so I didn't need to spend too much time on it. I now wanted to make some custom lampshades as well for the restaurant, and try and do a little bit more fun sort of detailed interior work with this one. I'm not really the best at interiors, but I thought I'd give it a go at doing some stuff like this. I think things like this are really fun to make in the game. So this is made from text symbols, just a bracket piece, rotated 360 degrees, you know, all the usual sort of techniques that we use in the game, and then just hanging the lamp up by a pole. Actually pretty simple and straightforward to put together, but I think it's a really nice touch for the interior, and it makes it look like a little bit more effort's been spent on it than some of my interiors in the past, which, let's just say, have been questionable. I would like to get better at building interiors as well, so it's probably something that I'm going to focus on a little bit more in the future, but maybe not so much for this park, because it's a water park, and water parks are mainly outdoors. Speaking of which, probably going to go off on a little bit of a tangent now, but I do plan on doing other series in the game. Eventually, I also want to get back to Utopia World, which was a sort of realistic theme park. The more I think about it, though, the more I'm not happy with how it looks now. I'm happy with some of it, but some areas I don't think there's enough realism details and stuff like that. So I probably want to go back and change some parts. The whole Wild West area I'm not happy with at all. And I was sort of thinking last night after I finished this build, yeah, if I go back into that park, I'm going to have to completely redo the western area, or else I'm just not going to be happy with it. That doesn't mean demolishing everything, but there's some parts that just don't sit right for me. But at the moment, every time I've opened up the game, this is the only build that I want to work in. And that's fine. I think if you can get the motivation, then it's all the better, because sometimes with creative games it's hard enough just to get enough motivation to play, and I think that's probably my main barrier. You know, when you're working all the time, you're pretty tired in the evenings. Sometimes you just think, oh, I could open up the computer and, you know, open up Planet Coaster to start playing, but if you're just not feeling it, then sometimes it's not worth it. It's like counterintuitive. You're just building stuff that you're not really feeling. And unfortunately, no amount of updates or DLC is going to change that. Frontier have now made this game absolutely fantastic. I think it's sort of a unanimous opinion now that the game is in a far, far better state than it was at launch, and most of the things that people were asking for, or the issues that people were having with the game, have been fixed. The only issue I'm still noticing a bit is the guest flow and how they interact, and walking through walls and stuff has always been a problem for me. If I place too many barriers, then the guests just seem to get stuck. Probably more so in Plancocat 2 than 1 for some reason. Maybe because the pathing's a little bit more complex in this game, but you know, it's just minor things that will probably improve over time with the more and more bug fixes we get as well. So yeah, all in all, at the moment, you know, the game's in a really good state, and I hope that I just continue to get this motivation to keep jumping in and building stuff, even if it's sort of every now and then, not necessarily all the time. Also, very mindful that this was originally sort of mainly considered a Parkitect channel, because I used to play so much Parkitect back in the day. I haven't forgot about that game, I haven't deserted it. I just haven't had the motivation to play that either recently. Probably because we've got this new toy with Planet Coaster 2. I've still got the one campaign map to finish off in Plancocat. I am going to do that, I do promise. It's just as and when I get round to it, because I know it's going to be a big build, and it's quite a difficult scenario as well. So yeah, I will get back to that at some point. I just don't know when. And in the meantime, I'm thinking if I have any ideas for a quick build in any game, I might just jump in and do a quick build. You don't always have to be committed to a series, which is sometimes something that holds me back a bit, I suppose, with just the completionist point of view. Like, I need to finish that before I can start that. It probably shouldn't be the way. You should just have fun playing the game. But anyway, I really did digress a bit there. So back to the point of the video, which is this build. You can see that I've done a lot of interior work there. Filled the restaurant up with tables and chairs. We're going to do our kitchen now as well, which is going to be somewhat open so you can see it from a guest perspective when you're eating in the restaurant. But it's also a little bit closed off at the back. So I'm using the kitchen items here by Plancocat, which can be found on the workshop. Very good stuff. I've just blueprinted it into my park. I'm not particularly good at building these sort of things, so I think that's absolutely something that I would look for in the workshop. And then just doing a little bit of realism with the sort of funnels that allow the air to shift out. I can't think of the vents, I suppose, would be the name for that. And we stick an AC unit on the top as well. So yeah, not going for hyper realism at all within this build, but I think there's time and a place for it where I can fit it in. If I can fit it in, I will. So there you can see the sort of air ducts on the roof and the air conditioning unit. Air conditioning is definitely something that I think we could all use at the moment, depending where you are in the world. It's been very hot in England or UK, and I suppose probably all across Europe recently. I'm not complaining, I love the warm weather, but yeah, some nights it's been very hot trying to get to sleep. So finally I kind of looked at this part near the wave pool, and I thought I can't really be bothered to do anything with that yet. I'd say that's for another episode, but I felt that I needed to do some of the scenery just around the restaurant itself. So using some of the recolorable rocks that I used in the previous episode of the wave pool and just spamming them all over the areas here. And then once we get the foliage in, it all starts coming together and looking a little bit more complete rather than just a random building on its own. It's amazing how quickly you can get foliage in once you know what foliage you're using. I stumbled across this really cool Japanese tree as well, which I ended up placing in. It wasn't intentional at all, just one random pink tree, but I just put it there and I thought that looks too good not to have, so it's staying. This park is up on the workshop now. I intend to update it once I've got this video uploaded to the current state that it's in, and at some point I'm also going to try and upload this restaurant as a blueprint onto the workshop now that we can have 8K pieces. I don't know how many pieces it is, so I'll have to look into that and see if it's feasible. But finally just putting the sign in and then a little bit of lighting, and that's pretty much the complete restaurant. So thank you very much everyone for watching this video. Hopefully I'll be back in the not too distant future with another build, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.